28, 2011, Daegu, South Korea, the World Championships 200-meter final. While the world expected Usain Bolt to cruise to another victory, something extraordinary happened in lane 4. A 21-year-old Jamaican named Yohan Blake didn't just win. He shattered the 200-meter championship record with a time of 19.26 seconds. But that number doesn't tell the whole story. What made Blake's performance so jaw-dropping wasn't just the time, it was how he got there. Blake's acceleration out of the blocks was unlike anything the sport had ever seen. His first 60 meters were so explosive that biomechanics experts later called it scientifically improbable. While most sprinters gradually built speed, Blake seemed to violate the laws of physics, reaching top velocity in a way that made seasoned track veterans question what they were witnessing. Just 19 days earlier, Blake had done something even more shocking. In Brussels, he ran 9.69 seconds in the 100 meters, making him the second fastest man in history behind only his training partner, Usain Bolt. Think about that for a moment. In less than 3 weeks, this relatively unknown sprinter had posted the second fastest times ever recorded in both premier sprint events. The numbers themselves seem almost fictional, 9.69 and 19.26. These aren't just fast times, they represent a level of human performance that pushes the absolute boundaries of what we thought possible. Blake's 200-meter time was only 0.07 seconds slower than Bolt's world record of 19.19. In sprinting terms, that's practically identical. But here's where the story becomes truly fascinating and ultimately tragic. Yohan Blake, the man who ran times that still make coaches shake their heads in disbelief, never dominated the sport the way those performances suggested he should have. How is that possible? How does someone run the second fastest times in human history and then disappear from the conversation? The answer lies in a cruel twist of fate that would define Blake's entire career. Just as he was emerging as a legitimate threat to Bolt's dominance, his body began to betray him. The same explosive power that made him superhuman also made him incredibly vulnerable. Blake's rise to the top was meteoric. Born in St. James Parish, Jamaica, he was initially more interested in cricket than track and field. It wasn't until his mid-teens that he seriously committed to sprinting, which makes his eventual achievements even more remarkable. Most world-class sprinters have been honing their craft since childhood, but Blake was practically a late starter. His breakthrough came in 2009 when he first broke the 10-second barrier in the 100 meters. By 2010, he was running 9.78. Announcing himself as a serious contender. But nothing could have prepared the track world for what happened in 2011. The 2011 season was when Blake transcended from promising talent to genuine phenomenon. His 9.69 in Brussels wasn't just fast, it was a statement. He had closed the gap between himself and Bolt to just 0.11 seconds, the smallest margin between the world record holder and the second fastest man in the event's history. Track and field experts were stunned. Maurice Green, the former world record holder, called Blake's acceleration otherworldly. Carl Lewis said he had never seen anyone generate power from the blocks like Blake could. These weren't casual compliments. They were acknowledgments from legends that they were witnessing something unprecedented. The 200-meter performance in Daegu was even more significant. Blake didn't just win, he dominated. His time of 19.26 was run in less than ideal conditions, leading many to believe that on the perfect day, with the right wind and track conditions, Blake could have threatened Bolt's world record of 19.19. Glenn Mills, Blake's coach, was quoted as saying that Blake's natural speed was scary. Mills had coached Usain Bolt to multiple world records, so when he used that kind of language about Blake's abilities, people listened. Mills believed that Blake had the potential to break both the 100-meter and 200-meter world records.
And your thoughts on Yohan, 19.80 world leading time?
Yeah, well, he's capable of running 1926, so they're both very good competitors. I don't see any reason why the performance.
But then came 2012, and everything changed. Blake arrived at the London Olympics as one of the most anticipated athletes in the world. The narrative was perfect. The student challenging the master. The new generation, threatening the established order. Blake had proven he could run times that made him a legitimate threat to Bolt's dominance. However, the Olympics revealed a different story. Blake struggled with injuries throughout the 2012 season. His hamstring problems, which had been minor annoyances in 2011, became major obstacles. The same muscle groups that generated his explosive power were now limiting his ability to train and compete at the highest level. Despite these setbacks, Blake still managed to win silver medals in both the 100 meters and 200 meters at the London Olympics. But those who had watched him in 2011 knew they weren't seeing the same athlete. The effortless acceleration was gone, replaced by a more measured, cautious approach. The injuries were more than just physical setbacks, they were career-altering events. Blake's training had to be completely restructured. Instead of pushing the boundaries of speed, he was now managing his body's limitations. The fearless sprinter who had posted impossible times was now constantly aware of his physical vulnerabilities. Dr. Hans Wilhelm Müller-Wohlfahrt, one of the world's leading sports medicine experts, analyzed Blake's case and concluded that his injury pattern was directly related to his explosive running style. The same biomechanics that made him so fast also put tremendous stress on his muscle fibers and connective tissues. What makes Blake's story even more compelling is how close he came to rewriting history. In 2012, despite his injury problems, he still ran 9.75 in the 100 meters and 19.44 in the 200 meters. These were still world-class times, but they represented a significant step back from his 2011 peak. The track and field community was divided on what Blake's career meant. Some viewed him as a cautionary tale about the dangers of explosive training methods. Others saw him as proof that the human body has limits that can't be pushed indefinitely. But a growing number of experts believe that Blake's 2011 season represented something more significant, a glimpse of human potential that we may never see again. Biomechanics researchers studied Blake's running technique and concluded that his stride pattern was unique among elite sprinters. His ability to generate force during the acceleration phase was measured at levels that seemed to defy conventional understanding of human muscle mechanics. The numbers from his peak performances continue to fascinate scientists. Blake's 9.69 was run with a 0.269-second reaction time, which is actually slower than optimal. This means that with a better start, he could have potentially run even faster. Similarly, his 19.26 in the 200 meters was achieved despite running the curve in lane 4, which is not considered ideal for posting fast times. Perhaps most remarkably, Blake accomplished his greatest performances while training alongside Usain Bolt. Every day, he was pushing against the greatest sprinter in history, which undoubtedly elevated his own performances. Their training sessions became legendary, with both athletes pushing each other to unprecedented levels. Today, more than a decade later, Blake's times remain the second fastest in both events. No one has come close to matching his 9.69 or 19.26. In an era where track and field technology, training methods, and scientific understanding have advanced significantly, Blake's marks stand as monuments to a level of performance that seems increasingly unreachable. The question that haunts track and field fans is simple but profound. What if Blake had stayed healthy? What if his body had been able to handle the incredible forces he was generating? The evidence suggests that Blake, at his absolute peak, may have been running at a level that was faster than anyone in history, including Usain Bolt. Was Yohan Blake actually faster than Usain Bolt, if only for a moment? And if his body hadn't broken down, would the record books look very, very different today?
Anticipated a Gout fight here, and on his inside, Andrew Mayenda is going to be the challenger. So Mayenda, the South Australian, he's fast. He's putting the challenge down to Gout Gout, and Josiah John out wide from WA. Josiah John, Gout though now shows his class. Gout from Queensland, 20.87. That is a national record.
This high schooler didn't just break a record, he obliterated it. Gout Gout, a 17-year-old Australian sprinter, just ran a 200-meter time so fast that the world took notice, and comparisons to Usain Bolt's early years are now unavoidable. But who is Gout Gout? And how did a teenager from Brisbane suddenly shock the entire track world? Born on December 29, 2007, Gout Gout grew up in a South Sudanese Australian family in Brisbane. His journey to sprinting stardom began in the most unassuming of places, school athletics carnivals. It was there that his natural talent stood out. By the time he was 13, he was already dominating local 100-meter and 200-meter events, drawing attention from national coaches and sports media. Under the guidance of his coach Diane Shepherd at Ipswich Grammar, Gout's raw speed began translating into timed excellence. At just 14 years old, he broke Australia's under-16 100 meters and 200 meters records with times of 10.57 and 20.87 seconds, respectively. For context, those times would already place him among the best sprinters in many national senior championships. He continued his ascent through 2023, capturing under 18 titles and further lowering his 100 meters to 10.29 seconds in March 2024. In August 2024, at only 16, he traveled to Lima for the World U20 Championships and ran a personal best of 20.60 in the 200-meter final, earning a silver medal. That time placed him among the top U18 runners globally and hinted at his massive potential. But his true breakout moment came in December 2024. In a stunning performance at the Queensland All-Schools Championships, Gout Gout clocked an unbelievable 20.04 seconds in the 200 meters. This shattered the Australian under-18 record, a mark that had stood for 56 years, previously held by Olympic silver medalist Peter Norman. Even more impressively, it beat Usain Bolt's own time of 20.13 at the same age. Bolt was 16 when he set that 2013, and we all know what happened after. That same month, Gout ran a 10.17 in the 100 meters, the fastest legal time ever recorded by an Australian under-18 athlete. He also recorded a wind-assisted 10.04 seconds in an earlier heat, a time that, while not legal for record purposes, ranked among the fastest ever by an under-18 globally. These were no flukes. Gout was now officially on the radar of the global sprinting elite. Fast forward to March 2025. Competing at the Queensland State Championships, Gout ran a wind-aided 19.98 in the 200 meters plus 3.6 meters per second. Then in April, at the Australian Senior National Championships in Perth, he delivered a stunning 19.84 seconds plus 2.2 meters per second wind to win the senior 200-meter title. While these times were not eligible for official record purposes due to wind assistance, they marked him as one of the fastest under-20 sprinters in the world, second only to Ariane Knighton in terms of all conditions 200-meter times for a youth athlete. High international media began to stir. Track experts and former Olympians started comparing his raw speed and poise to Usain Bolt's early career. Gout's sudden rise attracted attention beyond the track. Adidas signed him to a multi-year sponsorship deal in early 2025, seeing in him a potential global ambassador. Plans were made for him to train in Florida, alongside stars like Noah Lyles and Ariane Knighton, under the guidance of elite coaches who specialize in nurturing young talent. His team, led by Diane Shepherd and with support from Athletics Australia, is keen on maintaining his academic and mental balance to prevent burnout. So what makes Gout Gout different from other junior phenoms? It's not just his speed. Standing at 1.83 meters, he combines explosive power with remarkable fluidity and endurance. He doesn't just dominate the 100 or 200 meters, he's also posted impressive times in the 400 meters, including a 46.20 run in early 2025. That versatility hints at a deep athletic foundation and room to grow into a multi-event sprinter. His progression is among the most rapid ever documented for an Australian sprinter, from 22.68 at age 13 to 20.04 by 16. His improvement curve is almost unprecedented. At 13, he was running 22.68 in the 200 meters. By 15, he dropped to 20.87. Then at 16, he nearly broke the 20-second barrier. Such progression not only shows natural talent, but also a dedication to training, exceptional coaching, and a strong support system. Experts are careful to note that very few youth athletes can sustain this growth, which is why his team is pacing his development smartly. But with rapid success comes pressure. Australian track officials and his coaching team are being careful. They're emphasizing balance, keeping Gout in school, monitoring his training loads and shielding him from the intense media glare. Burnout and injury are constant risks for young athletes, and no one wants to see another prodigy push too hard, too fast. The Australian community also had to rally behind him when he became the target of online racial abuse in late 2024. Instead of breaking under pressure, Gout stood tall, his community and school doubling down in support. Despite the caution, the excitement surrounding Gout is only intensifying. Athletics Australia is reportedly including him in the senior team for the World Championships in Tokyo later in 2025. If he qualifies, he'd be one of the youngest ever to represent the country on such a stage. With guidance from elite-level mentors and the backing of a supportive infrastructure, Gout is poised to break more barriers. And then there's the Olympics. Paris 2024 came just a bit too soon. But Los Angeles 2028, Brisbane 2032, those are now realistic targets, with Gout Gout poised to be the face of Australian athletics for the next decade. By Brisbane, he'll be 24 years old, likely at his physical peak and running on home soil, in a sport that constantly searches for the next big thing. Gout Gout isn't just hype. His performances are backed by hard data, legal wind readings, and consistent improvement. More importantly, his times are better than most elite runners at his age, even the legends. With legal 10.17 and 20.04 performances on record and wind-aided sub-20s on his resume, he's carving a path toward history. As we look ahead, one question remains. Is Gout Gout the next Usain Bolt? Or is he about to write a new chapter in sprinting history with his own name at the top? One thing is certain, the track world has been shaken, and it may never be the same again. Comment below. Do you think Gout Gout will dominate the 2028 Olympics? Hit like if you're rooting for him, and subscribe for more stories on the rising stars redefining sports.
The track here now, Gout Gout gets up on John, moves past John, he can't be stopped, he is incredible, 10.17. 10.17. Oh, wow. He started behind the 8 ball.
At just 16 years old, Gout Gout has done what many athletes spend their lives chasing. Clocking an eye-watering 10.17 seconds in the 100 meters at the Queensland Track Classic, he didn't just break records, he shook the foundations of Australian sprinting. This isn't just a story about speed, it's about defying expectations, embracing identity, and setting sights on Olympic greatness. Gout Gout's journey starts in Ipswich, Queensland. Born to South Sudanese parents who escaped a war-torn homeland, Gout was raised on stories of perseverance and grit. His parents, like many immigrants, faced cultural and economic hurdles, but were determined to give their children a better life. Their resilience was passed down to Gout, who would channel it into his athletic ambitions. Interestingly, his name itself tells a story. Originally spelled Gout, a simple immigration error changed it to Gout. Rather than correcting it, his family embraced the new identity. That name, unusual and often mispronounced, would soon be echoed in stadiums and headlines across the country. Before he was sprinting into record books, Gout was dribbling soccer balls across suburban fields. Like many kids his age, he idolized Cristiano Ronaldo, mimicking his moves and dreaming of football stardom. But fate had other plans. During a school athletics carnival in year 7, Gout stepped onto the track and left everyone, including himself, stunned by his raw speed. It wasn't long before coaches and scouts began to take notice. Transitioning to full-time track training, he ditched the cleats for spikes. That decision, made in his early teens, would become the cornerstone of a legacy in the making. What amazed coaches even more was his natural running form, fluid, powerful, and uncoached. It was as if speed was wired into his DNA. December 20th, 24. The Australian All-Schools Athletics Championships. Gout lines up for the 100 meters, his face composed, his focus laser-sharp. What happened next would rewrite record books. He blazed through the heats in a wind-assisted 10.04 seconds, but in the final, with legal wind conditions, he delivered a staggering 10.17 seconds. That time wasn't just a win, it was a record. The fastest ever by an Australian under 18 athlete. What made this moment even more electrifying was the lit up among his competitors. They knew they were witnessing something historic.
The track here now, Gout Gout gets up on John, moves past John, he can't be stopped, he is incredible, 10.17.
And he wasn't done. The following day, he shattered the Australian national 200-meter record, clocking an unbelievable 20.04 seconds. That broke Peter Norman's 56-year-old record of 20.06. To put it into perspective, Peter Norman won silver at the 1968 Olympics and stood on the podium with Tommy Smith and John Carlos during their historic Black Power salute.